Hello, welcome back to the PL SQL tutorial. In this tutorial, let's try to see what is this issue. What we have a table called country, and as you see, this country table has two columns. One is ID, another is name. ID is not null, it's a number, and then name is not null and varchar 2. Okay, so let's try to write a PL SQL block. In that PL SQL block, what we are going to do, we are going to insert some values to this country. So the first statement what I did, I insert a value called 1 and India. Second statement I do 2 and China. And the third statement what I did, I insert ID as 3 but value as null. So basically what we have, we are saying that there is a not null constraint on this table country, right? I cannot insert a null value to name. So whenever I'm going to insert null, it is going to give me an error. Okay, so essentially this piece of code is going to exit abruptly because of error at line number 5. Okay, and what is the error? If you run yourself this thing on the PL SQL, you're supposed to get some kind of error like this. Okay, so where this is the error code 1400, and it will say that it cannot insert null into Scott dot whatever this thing. Okay, so now how do I, so basically instead of exiting this thing abruptly, is there any way I can handle this thing more gracefully? Okay, okay, so as you learned before, so we need to write an exception handler. Okay, so we have done so far, there are implicit exception which is predefined. That means there are some common error that Oracle has already defined an exception for that. Whenever those things occur, we are going to basically go to the exception. If we write a proper exception handler, then we can go and then handle the exception. But in this case, we need to figure out, are there any predefined exception with a server code 1400? So basically to do that, I need to go to this website, which is Oracle's PL SQL server documentation guide, and then let me just take this link, and okay, so this is the summary of predefined PL SQL exception. So these are the, like, what you are seeing here, this table says you what are the predefined exception that Oracle has already given to you. Can you even go and find out, is there any predefined exception for the error code that we are getting here, which is 1400? Okay, so for 1400, is there any predefined exception? Okay, looks like, I'm going to scan this thing. Actually, I know that there is no such predefined exception for error 1400. Okay, so if there is no such things, then probably to solve this problem we need to figure out another way. Okay, so the solution is that if there is no predefined exception, then it's a time to write one. Okay, to write one. Okay, so here is the procedure how you will write an exception. So first you declare. Okay, so declare means you name the exception. The way that you have declared a number variable, you declare a cursor, so you can also declare an exception. Then what you do, you associate the exception name with an Oracle error code. So in this case our error code is 1400. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do, if I declare an exception, say x as exception, then I need to associate x with 1400. That means whenever I'm going to get an server error code 1400, then I'm going to look at x, because so this is how it's happened. Like whenever you're going to get an error code 1400, then it automatically raise the exception named x. Why? Because you have associated it. And how do you associate? You associate by pragma exception, by some compiler pre-directives pragma. So what does it mean? That pragma is a keyword that signifies that this statement is a compiler directive, so which is not processed when PL SQL block is executed. Rather, it directs the PL SQL compile to interpret all occurrences of exception name within the block and is associated with this error number. So don't worry about this. I'm going to show you in a very quick example how I'm going to do that. Basically, like I'm just trying to give you the concept, and then I'm going to show you an example that will clear your doubts. Then after I basically this is declare, I associate, then what I do, I refer refer the exception in my PL SQL exception handling block. Okay, so basically, so this is the problem that we had seen, and then let's go for a solution. The solution is, so basically, like as I'm going to draw this diagram again. So I'm going to declare, then I'm going to associate, then I'm going to refer. So this is how it's going to happen. So here I declare an exception. My exception name is called my underscore except. Okay, then here is this thing called, so this is the declaration. So basically this is equivalent to this. Then by using the compiler directive called pragma, what I did, I initialize that exception to an error code called 1400. Why 1400, not 1500? The reason is that we are going to get an Oracle server error if we want to run this thing in the SQL plus. So if you run this insert into this country value 3 null, you are going to an error code 1400. That is the reason why I am trying to associate my exception name to error code 1400. Okay, then this insert statement is running fine, it's not a problem. This is not a problem. When this comes to this problematic insert statement, what happens? It raises an error 1400. As pragma suggests, whenever this 1400, this thing will interpret it. Okay, so that's what I told you before. This is a pre-directive, compiler directive. It will interpret it to go and try to look for an exception name my underscore exp. Okay, so that after this line number 8, the control is go to line number 9 to look at the exception handling block. When 0 divide, this is not going to happen, because what we are looking for, we are looking for an exception named my underscore except. However, in line number 12, I see my underscore except, so therefore it comes to the control is going to comes to this block. Okay, so in this block I am going to print this dbms underscore output port line. I just say a very nice statement like cannot insert null values, and then this thing will exit out. So this is where we refer. Okay, so this is where we declare, this is where we associate, this is where we refer. Okay, so what essentially you can do, you can write infinite number of exception yourself. Okay, infinite number of exception yourself, and you need to understand what error code server will give. Then you associate. Once you associate, you don't have to raise yourself. The server, whenever is going to see an error like this, it is going to raise automatically. That is what is happening here. So it raise automatically, and then the control is comes to here, and then the program is going to execute. So basically we are not going to get an error like this. Instead we are going to get a very graceful message, something like this, that we cannot insert null values. And also what you can do here, like instead of end, you can write a commit and then end. So in that case what happen, like what are these two rows, whatever you insert it will be committed. Okay, so that is how a user defined exception helps you. So basically this is what we are discussing. We already discussed last class about predefined Oracle server errors. So that means there are 25 plus, which is commonly error that Oracle has already defined the exception. You don't have to do anything, you just have to write the handler. But there are more than 1000 error, but they don't necessarily define for all this exception for them. In that case you can define an exception yourself and then you associate, but Oracle will automatically raise that exception whenever it's going to see this thing. Okay, so here in this case you define and associate and you refer. So here you just only refer. Okay, so in this case you are going to do two more steps. Okay, and then you can write almost infinite number of exception.